In these presentations, we will study the last two sections of the chapter 4, which are the adding and subtracting mixed fraction and order of operation with fractions. The first thing we want to study today is how we can add or subtract mixed fractions. There are two ways we can do that. Then in the first way, we need to follow these steps. The number one, we want to change the mixed number into the improper fractions. Then we want to find the equivalent fractions using the LCD. And then we want to add or subtract the numerators over the common denominator. And finally, we want to give the answer as mixed number or proper fractions. We don't want to give the answer as an improper fraction. And let's start with the first one. Then we had here 3 plus 2. And we want to change this one into improper fractions. To do that, remember, we multiply 3 times 6 and then we add 1. Yes. Then with 3 times 6 is 18 plus 1 is 19, and we keep this in the same denominator. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 is 17. Then it will be 17. over 6. Then if we add, now we had the same denominator, then just we add the numerators will be 36. Then you can just divide by 6. Divide by 6. And you will have 6 over 1, which is equal to 6. Or just you can say 36 divided by 6 equal to 6. And this is the answer. And let's solve the second example. Follow the same steps. And let me write this one. This is plus 1, 4. And the first thing we want to change this mixed fraction as improper fractions. Then 2 times 6 is 16 plus 7 is 23. Plus 1 times 4 is 4 plus 3 is 7 over 4. In this case, we had different denominators, and we need to find the LCD to get common denominator. Then the LCD of 4 and 8 we know is 8. Yes, we know it's 8. And we need to get a. Here there is, in this case, we don't need to do anything because we already had a as the denominator. But in the second fraction, we need to multiply by 2 on top and bottom. Then now we can write this one. 7 times 2 is 14 over 8. And if we add this number together, we will have 37. Because this is an improper fractions, we want to write this one as mixed number. And let's divide. And will be 4. 4 times 8 is 32. Then we had 5. Then we can write this one. This is the whole number. 4. The remainder is the numerator, and the divisor is the denominator. Then it's 4 is the whole part, and the fraction part will be 5 over 8. And this is the answer. if we apply the second way to add mixed fractions, what we had to do, we add the whole parts and then we add the fractional parts. Then in this case, we need to remember how to write the mixed fractions using the definition. Then 3, 1, 6, we can write this one like 3 plus 1 over 6 plus 2 plus 5 over 6. This is another way we can write the fractional. Yes, this is how we define the mixed fraction. Yes. And now we had, these are the whole part. We add the whole part. 3 plus 2 is 5. As we add the whole part, then we add the fractional part. And these are the fractional parts. We add this together. Then we had common denominator. Just we keep the denominator and we add the numerators. 5 plus 1 is 6. But we know 6 over 6 is 1. Then we had 5 plus 1 equal to 6. And this is the final answer, equal to 6. Then now we want to do the same thing in the second example. In this example, and yes, this is we had here is 7 over 8 plus 3/4. And we can write this mixed number as 2 plus 7 over 8 plus 1 over 4. Then we add the whole parts. Then 2 plus 1 equals to 3. Then we add the fractional parts. In this case, we don't have common denominator, then we need to find the LCD. And in this case, the LCD of 4 and 8 is 8. Yes. Then we want a as the denominator. We already had a in this part. Then we want a as the denominator. To do that, to get a, we multiply by 2. We multiply by 2 here. Then we had 3 plus 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. Then now we had common denominator. We keep this one and we add this together. Will be 30. Because this is an improper fractions, then we want to convert this one into the mixed fraction. Then let's do this one. Will be 8 will be 1. Then we have 5. Yes, we have 5 here. And this will be 1 5 over 8. Yes, this is how we can write this. Then we can write this one will be 3 plus 1 5 over 8. Because in this 3 doesn't have any fractional part, then yes, we can add these numbers together. 3 plus 1 is 4. 5 over 8. And this is the answer. Yes, remember here we just did in this way because we don't have fractional part here. Then 3 plus 1 is 4, and we had the same fractional part. Just 5 over 8. And we got the same answers we got using the way 1. Yes, we had the same answers. Now let's practice. We will solve these two problems using applying the way 1. And when you are solving the problems, you can apply either way 1 or way 2, whatever is easier for you. But I want to teach both ways. Then you will decide what way you want. Then here, let's write this one. It's just to make clear what are the numbers we had. Then if we apply the way 1, we need to convert this one into improper fractions. Then 8 times 2 is 16 plus 1 is 17. Then we had 17. We had 17 over 2 plus 2 times 3 is 6 plus 2 is 8. Then we had 8 over 3. Then now we need to find the LCD to add this, because we had different denominators. Then the LCD of 2 and 3 equals to 6. LCD 6. Then we want 6 at the denominator in both fractions. Then to do that, we will multiply the first fraction by 3 to get 6, and if we multiply then the denominator, we had to do the same on top. We multiply in this case by 2 to get 6, then we need to multiply 2 here. And let's now multiply. Solve this one. 17 times 3 is 51 over 6. 8 times 2 is 16 over 6. Now we add the numbers together. We had 67 over 6. Because this is an improper fraction, we need to convert this one into the mixed number. And let's divide by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times 6 is 0. Bring the 7 down, and 6 goes into 7 one time. 1 times 6 is 6. We substitute 6. We have 1 here. Then this will be equal. This is the whole part. Yes. The whole part is the quotient. We had 11. Then we had 1 here. 1 over 6. This is 1. Right here, this is 1. Then the answer is 1116. This is the answer. Let's do the same thing with the second one. Then we have this one. If this is 5 minus 2. Then let's convert this one into improper fractions. Then 5 times 4 is 20 plus 3 is 23 over 4. Two times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7, then 7 over 3. Now the LCD of 3 and 4 equals to 12. Then we want to get 12 as the denominator in both for both fractions. And to do that, we will multiply the first fraction by 3. 4 times 3 is 12. And we will do the same thing with the second one, but here we multiply by 4 to get 12, as we want to get 12 in the denominator. when 23 multiplied by 3 is 69 over 12 minus 7 times 4 is 28 over 12. And now we had common denominator, then we can just keep the denominator and subtract the numbers. Yes, and we know this equals to 41 over 12. This is an improper fraction. Then let's write this one as mixed fraction. 12 is 3 times, it's negative 36, and then we will have here 5. Then we can write this one. This is the whole part, is 3, 5, 12. And this is the answer. And let's move to the next. Then now we want to solve these two problems using the way, applying the way 2, just to review both ways. Then this one is 5 over 6 minus 4. Then in this case, we want to add the whole part and add or subtract depending on the signs. Oh, here is positive. Sorry, this is positive. Then we need to add the whole parts and add the fractional parts. Then let's write this one using the definition of the mixed fraction. And this one is, you can write this, like this, and then will be this 4 over 8. Now we add the whole part. Is 8 plus 4 is 12, and we need to add the fractional part. But in this case, we had the we need to find the LCD because we don't have common denominator. Then we need to find the LCD of, let me write here, the LCD of 6 and 8. Then if you know what is the LCD 6 and 8, just go ahead, write the go ahead, write the number. If not, then you can write the factors of 6. We can write the factor of 6. The factors are 6, 12, 18, 24. And the same we can do for A is 8, 16, 24. Then the least common multiple, and we know least common multiple and least common denominator are the same. And we know the LCD will be 24. And we want 24 as the denominator for both fractions. And to get that, we need to multiply this fraction by 4. Yes, and we had to do the same on top. We need to multiply this fraction by 3, and we had to do the same on top. And let's solve this one. We had 5 times 4 is 20, 6 times 4 is 24, 3 times 3 is 9, 8 times 3 is 24. Then now we had common denominator, just we keep the denominator and we add together the numerators. It's 29. Because this is an improper fractions, then we need to change this one into the mixed fraction, and then just we'll get the final answer. Then let's change this one into the, to do that, we divide this one, and it's 1 subtract 24. 1 times 24 is 20, negative 20 is 24. We subtract, we have 5. Then this number we can write 1 is the whole part, is the quotient. The remainder is the numerator, and this one is the denominator. Again, because we don't have fraction here, then the final answer will be just we add the whole part and we keep the fractional part. Then 12 plus 1 will be 13, and the final answer will be 13. 12 plus 1, and then 5, 24. And this is the answer. And let's now do the same with the other one. We want to add the, in this case, we want to subtract the mixed numbers using the way 2. Then let me write here, this equals to 4, 1, 3. And now let's write this one, 4 plus 5, 9. And here we had to be careful if we had negative symbol here. You see, if we had negative, I suggest you use parentheses and write this. And the reason is, you see, because this negative multiply everything we had inside the parentheses. Then this sign is going to change. Then let's distribute the negative number. Negative times positive is negative, and negative times positive is negative. And if we had negative sign here, the fractional part is also going to change into the negative. Yeah? Because this negative multiply everything we had here inside of the parentheses. Now in this case, what we had to do is we need to subtract the whole part. Is 4 minus 2 is 2. Yes, 4 minus 2 is 2. And we had to do the same with the fractional part, but we had different denominator. Then we need to find the LCD, 3 and 9, and we know this is 27. Sorry, it's 9. It's 9. It's 9. Yes. Then 2 and we don't need to do anything in this case, but we need to multiply by 3 here because we want 3 as the denominator. And we had 2 plus 3 9, and this equal to 2 plus 9. 5 minus 3 is 2. Yes. Because the fraction is the fractional part is a proper fraction, and just we use the definition for the mixed fraction, and then we know we can write this one like 2 9s. Yes. And this is the answer. Now we want to review some of the properties of the powers that we study when we cover the power of the whole numbers. Then just remember, if the exponent is even, and the product of the negative factor is positive. It means if the base is negative but the exponent is even, we always expect a positive answer, positive product. But if the base is negative but we had odd exponent, we always expect expect negative product. Negative product. Then let's check these two rules and when we solve these problems. Then if we have the negative 3/7 to the second power, then the base is negative 3/7, then we can write this one like negative 3/7 times negative 3/7. Then negative times negative is positive. We multiply the fractions, numerator with numerator, then 3 times 3 is 9, 7 times 7 is 49. And it's positive as we expected because we had even exponent. And in this case, we expected negative product, negative answer, because we had negative base and we had even exponents. Then negative 2/5 times negative 2/5 times negative 2/5. Negative times negative is positive, positive times negative is negative. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 5 is 25, 25 times 5 is 125. And this is the answer. Now here in this case we expected a positive answer. Oh, sorry. In this case we had a special case. The negative sign is outside of the parentheses. The negative sign is not part of the base. Yes, it's not part of the base. Because it's not part of the base, then the base is positive. Yes, it's positive. And if the negative sign is not inside of the parentheses, what we had to do is we keep this negative sign and we solve what we had inside the parentheses. Then the base is positive. Yes, then we multiply how many times? 4 times. Then now we had the negative. We had 1 on top. Yes. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 27 times 3 is 81. Then the final answer is negative 1/81. And in this case, just you don't get confused, even if we had even exponent in this case, the answer is negative because the negative sign is not part of the base. In the last example, negative is part of the base, then we need to multiply negative 1/5, sorry, negative 1/3 5 times. And we know the answer must be negative. Yes, we know the answer must be negative. Then we know the answer is negative, but we can, these are multiplications. And negative times negative is positive, positive times negative is negative, negative times positive is positive, positive times negative is negative, as we expected. Yes, we had 1 on top, and in the denominator, then we had 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27, 27 times 3 is 81, 81 times 3 is 243. And this is the answer. Now we want to solve, we move to the problems in which we need to follow the rules, in which we need to follow these rules. Yes. Then if we had an expression, we need to, and we want to solve that expression, then the first thing we need to solve is the group symbols. The second thing we want to solve is the exponents, and the third is multiplication and divisions. And always, if we don't have parentheses, we move left to right. And the last thing we want to solve is addition and subtractions, and always we move to left, from left to right. As these are the order of operations we need to follow. And in this case, we want to solve first the multiplication and then the addition. Yes, first multiplication and then the additions. Then maybe I will write this one again. Let's see if I can write here. Minus 2/3. We had this. And when we multiply numerators with numerators and the denominators with the denominators. And multiplication here. And positive times negative is negative. 3 times 1 is 3. Is 3. 4 times 2 is 8. Now we had different denominator. We need to find common denominator. To do that, we need to find the LCD. 3 and 8, and we know the LCD 3 and 8 is 24. It's 24. If you don't remember how to do that, then yes, we can 3. The factor of 3 is 2, and 4, 2, 2. Yes, we can do we can find the LCD using the prime factorization. Yes. Then in this we had 2 to the third times 3. Yes, this is the LCD. Then is equal to 24. Yes, this is the way. Then now we want 24 as the denominator. As we want 24 as the denominator, then to get that, we need to multiply this fraction by 8, and then we need to multiply this fraction by 3. And because we want to get 24 in the denominator, then this will be 2 times a is 16, 3 times a is 24, and then we want to do the same with the other one. Will be negative 9 over 24. Don't confuse with this part. And equals 2. Now we had common denominator with 24, and then now we add together, because both are negative. We add together, and the answer is negative. Then we have negative 25 over 24. Because this is an improper fractions, then we want to convert this one into a mixed fraction. Then I will just divide here. Okay, this is, so it's 25. Then it's 1 times this 1. Then we can write this one. This is the whole part equals to 1. This is the numerator, is the remainder, 1 over 24. And it's negative. Yes, it's negative. Because here is negative here. And it's negative. Let me write better. Let's see if we can. Equal to negative. Okay. In this example, we had the multiplication and we had subtraction. Then we know by the order of operation, by the rules, we need first to multiply and then we need to subtract. And let's write this one like equal to 2 minus times 1 over 4. And this equals to 2. And to multiply fractions, we multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 4 is 8. Then we know if we had a whole number, in the way we can write this one as fraction is just we divide by 1. Or we just write 1 as the denominator. Then now, because we had different denominators, 1 and 8, we need to find the LCD, and the LCD 1 and 8 we know is 8. Then we need to 8 as the denominator for both fractions. Then in the first case we need to multiply by 8 here, and we don't need to do anything to the second fraction because we already had 8 as the denominator. Then we had 16 over 8 will be equal to, keep the same denominator and subtract the numerator. 16 minus 1 is 15. Is 15. Now, because this is an improper fraction, let's change this one to a proper fraction. A goes into 15 one time, then it's 7. Then this will be equal to 1, 7 over 8. Yes, this will be the answer. Now let's go with the next example. Then in this case we had here addition, we had multiplication, but we had parentheses. By the order of operation, what we had to solve first is what we had inside the parentheses. Then let's solve first this part, and then we will solve the other part. Then we had here, in this case, we had negative 1 over 3 plus 1 over 5. And we want to solve first this part. Because we have different denominators, we need to find the LCD. The LCD of 3 and 6. Let me write here the LCD. 3 and 6 is 6. Yes, it's 6. Then let's write this one again. It's 1/3 plus 1, 5. We already had 6 here, but in this case we need to multiply by 2 to get same. Then we had negative 1/3 plus 1, 5. Then 1, 6 plus 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. And if we add this together, we will have 1/3 plus 1, 5 will be 3 over 6. And if we reduce this fraction, we will have 1 over 2. Yes, if we divide by 3, then we had here 1 over 2. If we divide by 3 is 1, divide 6 divide by 3 is 2. Then we can write this one like negative 1 over 3. Now plus, we had addition and multiplication. Then first multiply. 1 times 1 is 1, 5 times 2 is 10. Then plus 1 over 10. Then now we had negative 1/3 plus 1 over 10. Then we need to find the LCD, and the LCD will be 30. Yes, in this case the LCD, let me write here the LCD. 3 and 10 is 30. Then we want 30 as the denominator. Then to do that, we need to multiply this fraction by 10, yes, and this fraction by 3. Then 1 times 10 is 10. this fraction is negative. 3 times 10 is 30, plus 1 times 3 is 3, 10 times 3 is 10. Now we had common denominator, and just keep this one, and 10 plus 3. Sorry. Then now we subtract this one with minus 7, and this is a proper fraction. In this example, we had exponents, we had addition, we had multiplication. Then according to the order of operation, if we had exponents, we had to solve first exponents, then multiplications, and finally the addition. And let's solve the exponents first. And we know if we had the base is negative and the exponent is even, the answer is positive. But let's write all the steps. Here we have 3. Then this means we need to multiply this one, negative times 3 times negative 1/3 plus 2 1/3. Then in this case we have 3. Negative times negative is positive, as we expected. 1/9 plus 2/3. And now let's multiply this together. Then we will have 3 9. We multiply this together. 2 times 1. Remember, if we don't have, we can write 1. Positive times negative is negative. 2 times 1 is 2/3. And if it's possible to reduce the fraction, we will always reduce the fraction, because then the problem will be easier. Small number, we had smaller numbers. Then we can divide by 3. Yes, divide by 3 will be 1. And if we divide by 3, 9 divided by 3 will be 3. We reduce, divide by 3, 2/3. And now we had common denominator. Then just keep 2, 1 minus 2. Then the answer will be negative 1/3. The number 5, we had the division. This is the numerator and this is the denominator. Then I want to write this one in this way, because in some cases you will see problems like that. Then it's just to show you can write this problem also in this way. Divide by 3 plus 6/7. And in this cases, what we had to do is we had to solve the operations we had in the numerator. Then we solve what we had in the denominator, and finally we will divide. And this is the way we will solve this. And we need to find the LCD for these two, for the numerator, and solve. As in this case, the LCD for the numerator, yes, the LCD. Remember, we can write this one over 1. We can write this one over 1. Let's solve first this part. And I will write here the LCD. 1 and 9 is 9. Then we need 9 here. Then we multiply 1 times 9. This is multiplication. And we don't need to do anything, because we already had this one. And let's see what happened in the denominator. The LCD 1/7 is 7. Yes. Then we need to get 7 as the denominator here. Then we need to multiply by 7. And here we don't need to do anything. Yes, because 1 times 7 is 7. And let's now write here 1 times 9. We had 9 over 9 plus 8, 9. 3 times 7 is 21 plus 6/7. If you want, you can skip some of the steps. Just I am trying to do all the steps. This way you can understand. And now let's solve what we had on top. Yes. Then we had common denominator. Then 9, just we had to do is just we need to add the numerators. Let me write here. Then we had 9. We had 9, and we add the equals. Then 9 plus 8 is 17. This is what we had. Now let's solve what we had in the denominator. Then 21 plus 6 is 27. We add the, and just keep the same denominator. Then now what we had to do is, remember, we can write this one as 79 is the same thing as we had the same thing. 7. This is 17. This is 7. And if we had division, the way we divide the fraction is just we write this one, we change the division as multiplication, and we'll multiply by the reciprocal of the second number, 27. If we multiply 17 times 7, we had 119, and if we multiply 9 times 27, we have 243. This is a proper fraction, and this is the final answer. In these examples, given these three values, a equal to -1/2, b equal to 1/3, and c equal to -1/5, we want to evaluate a plus b times c. Then let's write the expression a plus b times c. Then we want to calculate this expression if a equals to -1/2 plus b, but b is 1/3, times c is -1/5. Then we had addition and multiplication according to the order of operations. We need multiply first, and then we add. Then let's multiply first. Then positive times negative is negative. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 5 is 15, equals to 15. Now we need to add together these two fractions, but they had different denominator. Then we need to find the LCD. Then the LCD of 2 and 15 equals to 30. Then we need to multiply the first fraction by 15 to get 15 as the denominator. But if we multiply the bottom part by 15, we need to multiply the top by 15. And the second fractions, we need to multiply by 2 to get 30 as a denominator, and we need to do the same on top. And let's multiply these two numbers. 1 times 15 is then it's negative 15 over minus 1 times 2 is 2. Then now we had a common denominator. Then what we had to do is we need to keep the same denominator, and in this case we need to add the numbers together because both are negative, and we need to keep the sign. Then will be negative 17, 30. Then, because this is a proper fractions, we cannot reduce this fraction, and this is a proper fraction. Then we don't need to write as mixed number. Then this is the answer, negative 17 over 30. In the next example, we had group symbols, we had parentheses, we had multiplications, we had additions, but according to the order of operations, first we need to solve the group symbols, then we need to multiply, and finally, in the last part, we want to add. Then first solve the group symbols. Let me write this one again. Then we need to solve first this part. We had different denominator, and in order to add these numbers together, add these two fractions, we need to get common denominator. To do that, we need to find the LCD of 2 and 5, which is 10. Then now we need to multiply the first fraction by 2 on top and bottom to get 10 as the denominator. And the second fraction we need to multiply by 5 to get 10 as the denominator. And we need to multiply the denominator and the numerator. Now the next thing is, let's go ahead, multiply the numbers inside the parentheses. 1 times 2 is 2, 5 times 2 is 10, 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 5 is 10. Now we had common denominator. And let's solve the parentheses. What we had inside the parentheses, the group symbol. Then we just keep the denominator and add the numerators. 2 plus 5 is 7. The next thing we want to do is we need to multiply. Yes, 10 is plus 1 times 7 is 7, 3 times 10 is 10. Now we need to, in this case where we had different signs, then we need to subtract the numbers, but we need common denominator. Then the first thing we want to do is to find the LCD to get common denominator, and then will be 230, and in this case we know the LCD is 30. And we need to multiply the fractions to get common denominator as 30. Then to do that, we need to multiply the first fraction by 15. 2 times 15 is 30. And if we multiply the denominator, we need to do the same on top. In the second case, we don't need to do anything because we already had 30 as the denominator. Then we had 1 times 15. Let me write here. 1 times 15 is 15. 2 times 30 is 30 plus 7 over 30. Now we had common denominator, and what we had to do is we will keep the same denominator. Now negative 15 plus 8 is plus 7. Negative 15 plus 7 is negative 8. And now we can reduce this fraction. We can divide by 4. Then we can divide by 2. Then if we divide by 2 will be negative 4. divided by 2 will be 15. Then the final answer will be negative 4 over 15. Yes, this is the final answer, negative 4 over 15. And in this case, we had 7 over 2 minus 2 divided by negative 8. And we know if we had whole number, just we can write just 1 as the denominator. Then if we had fractions, this called complex fractions. If we had fractions in the numerator or in the denominator of the complex fraction, then what we do is we will solve first the numerator. We solve what we had in the denominator, and then we divide. Finally, we divide. And in this case, we had here 2 and 1. We had to find the LCD, which is 2. Yes, the LCD of 1 and 2 is 2. And we want 2 as the denominator. Then we multiply by 2. We multiply by 2 this fraction. And we had 7. Let me write better. We had and equal to 7 minus 2 times 2 is 4. 2 minus 8. And now we had common denominator, then just we keep the denominator. 7 minus 4 is 3, divide over negative 8. Then again, what we had to do is just, if we had whole number, then we say we can write this one like 3 to divide 8 over 1. And to divide fractions, what we had to do, we keep this first fraction, change the division as multiplication, and we need to flip the fraction, the second fraction. This is negative 1 over 8. Then positive times negative is negative. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 8 is 16. This is a proper fraction, then this is the answer. And the same thing we had to do with the second one. Yes, it's the same thing we had to do with the second one. Is 2 to third, 1 plus 3, 5. And let's write this one. Yeah, 2. Then we can write like 2 over 1, and we can write this one like 1 over 1. And let's solve first the numerator. Then the LCD of 1 and 3 is 3. Then we need to multiply this by 3, this by 3. The LCD in case of the denominator, yes, is 5. The LCD of 1 and 5 is 5. Then to get 5 as the denominator, we need to multiply this one by 5. And let's now 2 times 3 is 6 plus 2 over 3. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 5 is 5 plus 3 over 5. Then now, because we had common denominator, then just we keep the denominators and add the numerators. 6 plus 2 is 8 over 3 over 5 plus 3 is 8 over 5. And we say if we had complex fraction, we can rewrite this one like, let me write this, y over 3 divided by a over 5. Then we can write this one like a, change the division as multiplication, and then just And we say in class, if we had in multiplication, we can just cross out this one, and we will have the final answer with 5/3. Also, if you want, just you can multiply 8 times 5 is 40, 8 times 3 times 8 is 24, and then just reduce. You can divide by 8 will be 5, divide by 8 will be 3. You will get the same answer. This is an improper fractions, and we can change this one into the mixed number. Yes, this is 3, 5 is 1, 1 times 3 is 3. We subtract this one, then we can write this one as 1, 2, 3. Yes. If you had to write the answer as fraction, yes, as fraction, as mixed number, sorry, as mixed number. The last thing we want to discuss is some application is how we can calculate the area of the trapezoid. The trapezoid is a quadrilateral that has 4 sides. It's a polygon that has 4 sides, but 2 of these sides are parallel. Yes, this side is parallel to this side, and the sides that are parallel is called the bases. And the distance between the bases is called the height of the altitude. Okay, we had here 2 bases, are these 2, and the distance between these 2 bases is called the height or the altitude. Then now we know what is the basis or the height of the trapezoid, and now we can try to get the area, the formula for the area. You see here we had the same trapezoid, but if we divide this trapezoid by this line, we can see we had 2 triangles. Then the area of this trapezoid, we can calculate the area of this trapezoid if we add the area of this triangle and the area of this triangle. Then for the first triangle, we had the base, and the height is the height of the trapezoid. Yes, is this one, is the h value. Then just now concentrating the gray triangle, then the area of the gray triangle will be the base is 1/2, the base, this is this one, times the height. Now let's concentrate in the second triangle. Then the area is, if this is the base, remember the height is this line. Yes, is the height, is this line, which is the height. Yes, then the area of the y triangle will be 1/2. The base is this length, yes, times the height. And what happened is, in this case, because we had common factors, see they are the same, then what we can do is we can do the opposite of distribute. Then we can pull this one out of the expression because we had the same h. We can write this one like b1 plus b2. And we know this is right because if we distribute this one to the parentheses, we will get the same we had here. Is 1/2 times h times 1/2 h times b1 is this one, and 1/2 h times b2 is this. And this is why we can write this expression like this one. and this is the area of the trapezoid. And this is how we can calculate the area of the trapezoid, where h is the height, is the distance between the two bases, and B1 and B2 are the bases of the trapezoid. And let's try to calculate the area of this trapezoid. Yes, this is what we want to do finally. Then in this case, this is the height. Yes, this is the height. This is B1 and this is B2. And now just we will replace these values into the formula to calculate the area of the trapezoid. Then the area equals height, but height is 3 inches. We will just write the units at the end. This multiplied by B1 is 4 plus 2 in the area. And we can just multiply this one. 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 1 is 2. Now we need to add this mixed number together, and you can do it either way. Let's convert this one into improper fractions and then we add together. 4 times 4 is 16 plus 1 is 17 over 4 plus 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5 over 2. Then we need to add these two fractions together, but they had different denominator. They don't have common denominator. Then the LCD of 2 and 4 is 4, and we need to multiply this by 2 to get 4 as the denominator. That's because we know the LCD 2 and 4 is 4. Then the area equals, here we don't need to do anything, but here we need to multiply 5 times 2 is 10, 2 times 2 is 4. Then now we need to add this number together because we had here 4. We had common denominator, then just we add the numbers together will be 27 over 4. Finally, we multiply, and we had to follow the order of operation. First, what we had in the group symbols. Now, last thing what we had to do is we multiply the numbers. And 3 times 27 is 81. 2 times 4 is 8. Because this is an improper fractions, we can write this one as mixed fraction. I will divide here. 8, then A goes into A one time, 0, bring 1 down. A goes into 1 0 times. Then the final is, we can write this one like 10 is the whole number, yes, we have in the quotient. Then the remainder is the numerator and the divisor is the denominator. And this is the final answer. Then the area equals to 10. And remember, the area is always square units. Yes, and this is the final answer. And this is all we will discuss for today. Bye bye.